I think it's step one. I think until you can write it out simply, you really haven't thought critically about it. And the Shakespeare quote, "The brevity is the soul of wit." If you can explain it simply, you understand it well, right? But if you can't explain it simply, step by step, if you can't explain it to a fifth grader, chances are you're not ready to actually sell anything to anyone, because customers appreciate simplicity.
I can see the whole wide world with these two eyes, and I can be whoever I want to be, 'cause it's my life.
Hi, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Ask Spurrell CPA. Today, as the Edmonton business consultant, we're talking about the business plan sales process section. So I have Denise here with me again. Denise, these business plans that we see that the clients bring into us first, how many of them ever walk through systematically, step by step, their sales process?
Very few.
Very few. And how important are sales to most businesses?
Well, that's critical, right?
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things. So the Peter Drucker quote, wrote 39 business books. I think he said it best, and it says, "Nothing happens until somebody sells something." 50%, statistic is 50% of all Canadian businesses will go out of business in the first 5 years. 42% of these failed businesses will list the inability to attract customers as one of the primary reasons for their failure, making the inability to attract customers at 42% as the most common reason for business failure. And the story that we have here, even though sales are they're so important, most businesses, they're not specific about their sales process, even though the sales is it's the lifeblood of their entire business. So, to get it right in the business plan, Denise, regarding that sales process, what are the questions that these business owners should be asking?
So does writing out your sales process force you to think critically about it?
I think it's step one. I think until you can write it out simply, you really haven't thought critically about it. And the Shakespeare quote, "The brevity is the soul of wit." If you can explain it simply, you understand it well, right? But if you can't explain it simply, step by step, if you can't explain it to a fifth grader, chances are you're not ready to actually sell anything to anyone, because customers appreciate simplicity. They really like a simple sales process where they can understand everything. And if you don't understand it well enough to write it out simply step by step, chances are your customer isn't going to understand the solution very well, and they're not going to purchase it. So I think it's step one in thinking critically about it is to actually write it out.
Yeah. And should the sales process normally involve a checklist for new client intake?
Yeah, normally every new client that you have, you want to have some sort of checklist, unless this is a web-based sales process where it's completely automated. If there's any human interaction at all in the sales process, you want to know what are the questions that we're asking these new prospective clients, and is it significant that we're actually recording the answers as they happen? If it's a retail location, maybe we're not doing that if it's small item sales, but if it's bigger ticket items, a lot of times there's a checklist of all the questions you want to ask these new clients, and you want to write the answers down because the sales process may take a while.
Should the sales process normally involve templated agreements?
Almost all the time, it should have templated agreements. If we're going to sell things, if there's terms and conditions that we're going to use, let's just write those terms and conditions at once. We want to make sure that way we can deliver a professional looking agreement each and every time. We're not just going to Staples and writing the estimate on the estimate book that they give us there. Let's brand those things. Let's get our terms and conditions. Let's get our GST number printed out. Let's make it as professional as possible, and also reduce the risk that we're going to miss anything critical in that agreement, so there's no miscommunication and people are happy with the solution that they purchase.
Should the sales process normally involve templated emails?
Yes, templated emails if it's any sort of multi-step process. So someone books an appointment and later on you follow up. That's really going to help you communicate with people at a high level. It's very difficult when you're really busy to give a really professional, energetic sounding email all the time, where you got the commas and exclamation points in the right place, and you're sending an email that's not likely to get questions back, because you don't want to, a piece of written communication should be used to close a communication loop, not to open a new one. It's going to be a massive time suck. So if you can template those things, when someone books an initial appointment with you, bang, you automatically send them the agreement of what they need to bring with it, where they're going to be meeting, set their expectations for it, answer any common questions right in that email. If you can template that, you'll just appear slick and smooth, and you'll start to gain the customer's trust right from the get-go.
So how do templated emails help you achieve the optimal points of contact?
So they say that, a lot of times people have to have 7 points of contact before they buy anything.
Yeah.
So let's look at that. We want to make 7 effective points of contact. And a lot of times before they arrive to you, you've already had a couple of points of contact. They've probably either A, seen your ad, and B, gone to your website. And now hopefully, if they've been listening to our channel, they have seen an ad. They've had a retargeting ad, because they know that the average person has to see your ad 4.3 times before they do anything. So they've seen an ad, seen a retargeting ad. Now they've seen your Google reviews, and now they've seen your website. And maybe they've seen some other content, like a YouTube video. But now let's say they finally call you. We're at point 6 at this point a lot of times, and then you're going to fire back a polished email after they call in the first time, or after they email you for the first time, and exactly what you need for them, and it's going to appear super organized. And even before the appointment, you're going to send another super polished email confirming the appointment, or a call out script that you're going to confirm the appointment. And then they're going to come into your place of business, and you're going to put on a laser show of a presentation that's templated, because you've thought about it. What's the most effective way to walk customers through. Now we're at like 9 points of contact. We're exceeding that 7 points of contact, and that person's likely to actually become a customer at that point. So having those templated emails gives those effective points of contacts that you otherwise might maybe you just don't confirm, or maybe you don't you don't send them an email following the initial phone call because it takes too long. You don't confirm the appointment because it takes too long, or you do a bad job of it, but now you've done a good job of it because of those template emails.
Should the sales process normally involve a templated sales package?
A lot of times, a lot of businesses, they need a templated sales package. So this is exactly what you show them. This is exactly the agreements that what you show them. Depending on if it's an on location, our sales package, we can show them when they get here, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going on location to someone's house or someone's place of business, you need a way to actually display that. And if you can't do it digitally, you need to be able to have it in paper. So a lot of times there's a sales package. Don't just tell them things, show them.
Yeah.
That's what you need for sure.
And what should most construction businesses include in their sales package?
So a lot of times you're a construction professional, what you want to include is you have a templated agreement, number one. And it's, polished. It has, your terms and conditions. It has, the advantages, your warranty. It has your branding kind of nicely on point, right? But let's go a little deeper. You're telling people you have liability insurance. Don't just tell them. Give them the insurance certificate. You pay through the nose for your insurance every year, but you don't want to pay 5 cents for a piece of paper to show the customer to prove that they have it. You'll probably be the only one who gives them an estimate who proves that they have it. Show them that you have vehicle insurance too. A lot of people don't realize that you have to have commercial vehicle insurance, because the homeowner, if you're doing a job on a site, the homeowner can get sued if you're driving the materials to their site, even if you have general liability, but you don't have a vehicle insurance. So show them that. Don't just tell them you have WCB coverage. Show them that you have WCB coverage. Bring the clearance certificate for the WCB. It's just going to set you apart dramatically. Bring a security clearance check, a police security clearance check, because they're thinking it. Trust me. They're thinking, should I let this person into my house? Do they look trustworthy or not? And they're thinking of every other person who came in there and gave them a quote. Just bring it with them, right? Yeah. If you have a bunch of reviews, a bunch of Google reviews, bring it with them. Don't even make them search it. Just bring them, print it out. Those sort of things. You just print the same document. Just print 100 copies of all of them and give it to every person that you walk through the door. It'll take you a couple of hours to assemble that package and a bunch of copies, and you just include it with everyone every time, just dramatically increase your closing rate for the projects.
Should most sales processes provide for in-person presentations when practical?
Yes, yeah. So a lot of people think, the quote, I'll email you the quote after.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my thought on this, and this is the polarizing thought. I think if a job is a certain size, if it's too small, just bid it on the phone. If you think it's less than 1 day in most construction trades, just bid it on the phone, qualify it, and say, if I get there, if it turns out to be more than this, we'll adjust the quote. And if it's go beyond that 1 day, you go out and give a quote, give a quote. Just give them an estimate on the spot up to a certain price. Maybe it's up to $5,000 or maybe that's up to $10,000, and you're going to lose sometimes. 100% you're going to lose. But you don't want to take it home unless it's a certain amount of meat on the bone. And if it's enough meat on the bone that you took it home, it's more than $10,000. It's a $50,000 basement development, or they're ripping apart their whole house and it's $200,000. Do not email that quote. Book an appointment. Go back and explain to them that quote. And if the client tells you that they're not willing to give you the appointment, tell them that you're not willing to give them the estimate. You're not going to go and spend 2, 4, 8 hours of your time assembling this detailed quote when they won't even give you a spot on their calendar to hear about the quote. I mean, don't do it. So whenever practical, you want to give that in-person presentation, and that in-person presentation is practical more often than you think. A lot of times, if it's not practical, we're simply just dealing with the wrong customer who's not going to convert anyways.
Should a lot more businesses utilize digital signatures in their sales processes?
Yeah. So the digital signature is not an excuse to do the in-person presentation where practical. But let's say you have booked the time. You booked the time to go out and see the project. You found out that, this is definitely longer than a day. I need to take this quote home. I took the quote home. I booked it, an in-person appointment back to see the client. I booked it before I even did the quote. Then I went and did the quote. And then I showed up to that appointment that I said I was going to show up. I presented it to them. And they still didn't want to sign in that moment. Okay. Now, you've done your due diligence, you've done what you have. Now let's make it as easy as possible for them to sign. So send it through a digital signature program where immediately once they sign it, they both get signed copies. They'll appreciate that professionalism. They don't have to scan it. You don't have to drive back and get the signature again. Most businesses, if there's any sort of sales booking, we need your name on a dotted line and people might think about it, you probably should have a digital signature program in place to send contracts.
Finally, should you standardize times for following up on potential sales?
You should. So the trap is, it's the poverty mindset trap. The poverty mindset trap is, what time do you want me to follow up with you on this?
Yeah.
That's like saying, I'm not confident enough that I'm going to get any more leads, so I'll do whatever I want. I'll cancel anything I have in my calendar to call you, even though you said you didn't tell me yes in this appointment. I'm going to drop everything I'm doing on 2 minutes notice. Like, no, you got to follow up. And just going to follow up. Everybody just pick, hey, every Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to follow up on all my outstanding leads and my potential clients. You should call them all. And next week, you call them all again. But not standardizing that time in the sales process is usually problematic, and it won't fit into a calendar because you start plotting that out to a calendar, and you all of a sudden I'm going to skip my site visit to follow up on that on an estimate, or I'm going to skip my marketing initiative, so the phone won't be ringing anymore. So then I have to discount my price when I follow up with them, or else I don't have any work for next week. So you want to standardize those times for sure. So I think that's what we have here today. As always, please hit the like and subscribe button so we can continue to deliver you tips on how to beat the odds at business. And we'd love to see any feedback that you have below so we can respond back and use your comments for future videos. Thanks very much.